People think money solves everything. In my case, it only made things more complicated. My name is Victoria Sterling. I was born into power. My father built one of the largest real estate empires in the country. By 30, I was running half of it. Newspapers called me a billionaire. Business magazines wrote about my success. But none of that mattered as much as my family. My husband Ethan was the opposite of everything I grew up with. He wasn't rich. He didn't come from a powerful family. The first time my father met him, he looked at Ethan's simple clothes and whispered to me later, "People like him don't belong in our world." But Ethan never cared about status. He was kind, calm, honest. The type of man who fixed things around the house himself. The type who remembered small details about people. The type who could make our daughter Sophie laugh on her worst days. That was the reason I loved him. We'd been married 7 years. Sophie had just turned 5. To the outside world, our life looked perfect. But inside my father's mansion, tension was always there. Richard Sterling never accepted Ethan. He never said it directly, but I could see it in his eyes. Every family dinner felt like a silent battle. One night, after Ethan left early to put Sophie to bed, my father leaned toward me. "You still have time to fix this mistake," he said coldly. I frowned. "What mistake?" "This marriage. You should marry someone who strengthens our empire. My best friend's son, Alex, would be perfect for you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, I'm already married. You can change that." His voice was calm, but the words were heavy. "I love Ethan," I said quietly. My father leaned back in his chair. "Love doesn't build empires." I didn't answer that night, but I never forgot those words. Still, life continued. Ethan and I ignored the tension. We focused on Sophie, our home, our quiet moments together. Everything felt normal. Until the night everything changed. It was raining. I came home late from work exhausted after a long meeting with investors. The house felt unusually quiet. Normally Sophie would run toward me the moment I walked in. But that night, there was only silence. "Ethan," I called out. No answer. I walked into the living room. That's when I saw it. A white envelope on the table. My name written on it. My hands felt cold as I opened it. Inside were divorce papers, signed by Ethan. My heart started pounding. This had to be some kind of mistake. I searched the entire house. His clothes were gone. His phone was off. Even Sophie's small suitcase was missing. My daughter was gone too. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I called him again and again. Nothing. I contacted his friends. No one knew where he was. The entire night passed in panic. By morning, my father arrived at the house. I don't even remember calling him. Maybe one of the staff did. He walked into the living room, looked at the papers on the table, and sighed. "So, he finally did it," he said. I looked up at him. "What do you mean?" "He left." My father's voice was calm. Men like him always do. My hands were shaking. "He took Sophie. He'll bring her back eventually." He picked up the divorce papers. "You should sign these." I stared at him. "What? You heard me. Don't waste your time waiting for that beggar." Anger burned in my chest. "He's my husband." "He was your husband. Now sign the papers and move on." I pushed the documents away. "No." My father's eyes hardened. "You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm not signing anything. I'm going to find him." He laughed softly. "You're a billionaire, Victoria. Do you really want to chase a man who clearly ran away?" But something inside me refused to believe Ethan would leave like this. Not without a reason. Not without a single word. I folded the papers and placed them back on the table. "I'm not signing." My father looked at me for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "You'll regret this." Maybe he thought I would give up after a few days. But he didn't understand one thing. I loved my husband, and I wasn't going to stop searching for him. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. 6 months passed. No messages, no calls, no trace. Until the day I visited one of our construction sites and saw something that made my entire world stop. It was supposed to be a normal visit. One of our biggest projects, a large apartment complex on the edge of the city. I had meetings scheduled with the project managers. The morning felt ordinary. Workers carried tools. Machines filled the air with noise. I stepped out of my car, wearing a simple business suit and a white safety helmet. The site manager walked beside me, explaining progress. "We're ahead of schedule, Miss Sterling," he said proudly. I nodded politely, but my mind wasn't fully there. Even after 6 months, part of me was still searching for Ethan. Every crowd, every street, every stranger's face. We walked deeper into the site. Dust floated in the air. Workers moved between metal beams and unfinished walls. Then, suddenly, my feet stopped. My heart skipped. Across the construction area, a man was lifting a heavy bag of cement onto his shoulder. His clothes were dirty. His hair was longer than I remembered. His face was covered in dust. But I knew that face, even from a distance. Even after 6 months. It was Ethan. For a moment, my brain refused to believe what I was seeing. My husband, the man who used to sit beside me at elegant business dinners, was standing there wearing worn-out work clothes, working as a laborer. My breathing became uneven. "Miss Sterling?" the manager asked, confused when I stopped walking. But I didn't answer. I was already moving. My heels sank into the dirt as I walked across the site. Closer, closer. My heart pounded louder with every step. Ethan turned slightly while adjusting the bag on his shoulder. Our eyes met. The moment he saw me, his entire body froze. Shock filled his face. The cement bag slipped from his shoulder and dropped heavily to the ground. Workers nearby looked at him in confusion. But I didn't care about them. All I could see was him. 6 months. 6 months of questions. 6 months of pain. 6 months of silence. And now he was standing right in front of me. Like nothing had happened. Anger exploded inside my chest. Before I even realized what I was doing, my hand moved. The sound of the slap echoed across the site. Ethan didn't try to stop it. He didn't move. He simply looked at me. His eyes were tired, hollow. "Why?" I demanded. My voice shook. "Why did you do this?" Workers nearby had stopped moving. Everyone was watching us now. But I didn't care. "You disappeared. You took our daughter. You left divorce papers like I meant nothing to you." Ethan stayed silent. That silence only made the anger stronger. "I searched for you for 6 months. 6 months, Ethan." Finally, he spoke. "Victoria, please lower your voice. Don't tell me what to do." My hands were shaking. "You think you can just disappear from our lives and then show up here like this?" He looked down for a moment, then back at me. "You shouldn't have found me." Those words felt like another slap. What does that even mean? Ethan took a slow breath. Then he glanced around at the workers watching us. "Not here," he said quietly. "Here," I replied firmly. He studied my face. Maybe he realized I wasn't leaving without answers. Finally, he spoke again. "Your father came to see me the night before I left." My anger paused for a second. "My father?" Ethan nodded slowly. "He didn't come alone." A strange feeling crept into my chest. "What are you talking about?" "He brought 2 men with him." My stomach tightened. "He told me something very simple. If I didn't disappear from your life, he would make sure our daughter never saw another birthday." For a moment, I thought I heard him wrong. My brain refused to process the words. "What?" Ethan didn't look away. "He said I was a stain on your family name. He said I was embarrassing his empire. He wanted you to marry Alex Vance, the same man he mentioned months earlier." Suddenly, pieces started falling into place. "He told me to sign the divorce papers and leave quietly. If I didn't," his voice cracked, "he said Sophie would disappear." The world around me suddenly felt very quiet. The noise of machines, the voices of workers, everything faded. Only Ethan's voice remained. "He warned me not to tell you. He said if you ever found out the truth, His people would know. My chest tightened painfully. So, you just left? I whispered. Ethan nodded. His voice broke. I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you both safe. I stared at him. The man standing in front of me wasn't the confident husband I remembered. He looked exhausted, like life had been slowly crushing him for months. I've been working here for months, moving from one site to another, so your father's people wouldn't find me. My hands slowly dropped to my sides. My father, the man I trusted my whole life. The man who told me Ethan left because he found another woman. The man who pushed me to sign divorce papers. Ethan watched my face carefully. You didn't know. I shook my head slowly. No. My voice was barely a whisper. I didn't. And in that moment, the truth hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. For several seconds, I couldn't say anything. I just stood there staring at Ethan. Dust covered his clothes. His hands were rough. His face looked older, more tired than the last time I had seen him. 6 months. He had been living like this. Not because he wanted to, but because my father forced him to. I thought you stopped loving me, I whispered. Ethan shook his head immediately. Victoria, I never stopped loving you. His voice was quiet, but firm. I left because I thought it was the only way to keep you and Sophie safe. My eyes filled with tears. Where is she? I asked quickly. His expression softened. She's safe. I left her with my sister. Your father's people don't know about her. Relief washed through me so strongly my knees almost gave out. My daughter was safe. But something else was rising inside me now. Something much stronger than sadness. Anger. Not at Ethan. At my father. All those months, he watched me suffer. He watched me search for my husband. He watched me cry, and he said nothing. Instead, he kept repeating the same lie. Ethan looked at me carefully. What are you thinking? I wiped the tears from my face. I'm thinking that my father believes he controls my life. He frowned slightly. Victoria, don't do anything reckless. I looked at him. For 6 months, I believed you abandoned me. My voice hardened. Now I know the truth. I'm not letting him destroy our family. That night, I didn't go home. I went to the one place my father thought I would never look. My mother's private study. Eleanor Sterling had always been the quiet one. The elegant wife who smiled at dinner parties and never disagreed with her husband. I always assumed she didn't know about my father's cruelty. I was wrong. I found her sitting alone, a glass of wine in her hand, staring at old photo albums. She didn't seem surprised to see me. You found him, she said quietly. Not a question. I stood in the doorway. You knew. She took a slow breath. I knew the night he left. My hands clenched. And you said nothing. Your father, she paused. He's not a man you say no to. He threatened to kill my daughter. My voice was cold. And you let him. My mother finally looked at me. Her eyes were tired. He's done it before. I froze. What? She closed the photo album slowly. When you were 17, there was a boy. You don't remember. Your father made sure of it. My heart started racing. What boy? His name was Daniel. You met him at summer camp. You wrote letters to each other for months. He was going to visit you. Your father found out. I didn't remember any of this. He sent 2 men to Daniel's house. Made it clear that if the boy ever contacted you again, his family would lose everything. My mother's voice was flat. Daniel's father lost his job a week later. They moved away. You never heard from him again. My stomach turned. That's not all. My mother opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. There were others. A business partner who tried to leave. A reporter who started asking questions. A lawyer who wanted to file a complaint against your father's company. She placed the folder on the table. They all disappeared. Not physically, but financially. Their careers destroyed. Their families threatened. Every single one. I stared at the folder. Why are you showing me this? My mother's hands were shaking. Because I've spent 30 years pretending I didn't know. I told myself it was for you. For this family. But it wasn't. She looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Shame. I was afraid. Of him. Of losing everything. Of being alone. Her voice cracked. But he went after my granddaughter. And she stopped. I can't pretend anymore. I picked up the folder. Inside were documents. Bank records. Names. Dates. Testimonies. And a small recording device. I recorded him, my mother said quietly, the night he made the call to Ethan. I didn't know why at the time. I just wanted proof. In case. Evidence, hard evidence. Where did you get these? I started collecting them 10 years ago, in case I ever needed to leave. She looked down. I never had the courage. I held the folder against my chest. I do. That night, I made phone calls. Not to lawyers, not to the police. To the people my father had destroyed. Daniel answered on the third ring. He was 36 now, a mechanic in Ohio. He remembered everything. The business partner was living in a small apartment in Arizona. The reporter was writing for a local paper in Oregon. The lawyer had lost his license. They all remembered, and they all wanted to talk. 1 week later, my father organized a large family gathering at his mansion. It wasn't unusual. He often invited relatives and business partners to show off his success. That night, the house was filled with people. My uncles, my cousins, my father's closest business friends, and sitting proudly beside my father was Alex Vance. My father stood near the center of the room, smiling confidently as he spoke to guests. He believed everything was going according to his plan. When I walked in, people turned to look at me. Victoria, my father said with a satisfied smile. You're finally here. His eyes briefly studied my face. You look better. I assume you finally accepted reality. I didn't answer. I simply walked toward him. Everyone in the room grew quiet. My father noticed the silence and raised his glass slightly. I was just telling everyone that my daughter will soon make a decision that will strengthen our family's future. I looked around the room. Every face was watching. Perfect. Actually, I said calmly, I have something to say too. My father's smile faded slightly. What is it? I took a slow breath. For 6 months, my father told me my husband left because he wanted money. People shifted uncomfortably. He called him a beggar. He pushed me to sign divorce papers. My father's expression tightened. Victoria. But I continued. Do you know what really happened? Silence filled the mansion. I looked directly at my father. You threatened him. A wave of whispers spread through the crowd. You told him if he didn't disappear, you would kill his daughter. My father's face turned pale. That's a lie, he said quickly. But his voice lacked confidence. I stepped closer. The man you called worthless spent 6 months working as a construction laborer just to protect his family. The room had gone completely silent. My father's friends looked at him with shock. Alex slowly lowered his glass. You destroyed my marriage. You made me believe my husband betrayed me. My father clenched his jaw. I did what was best for you. No, I replied calmly. You did what was best for your business. Then I pulled out the folder my mother had given me. Do you know what else he did? I asked the room. I opened the folder and began reading names, dates, victims. A 17-year-old boy whose family he destroyed. A business partner who tried to leave. A reporter who asked questions. A lawyer who filed a complaint. With every name, my father's face grew paler. These people lost their careers, their homes, their futures. Because my father believed nothing should stand in the way of his empire. Gasps echoed around the room. My mother sat in the corner, her face pale but her eyes steady. My father's voice rose. You're lying, all of it. I pulled out the recording device. Am I? I pressed play. My father's voice filled the room. If you don't disappear, the girl disappears too. You understand what I'm saying? The room went completely silent. My father's face was white. I placed the folder on the table and removed the diamond ring he had given me years ago. The symbol of our family empire. You can keep your empire. Gasps filled the room. My father stared at me in disbelief. "You're being emotional." I shook my head. "No." Then I said the words he never expected to hear. "I choose my family." I turned toward the door. "And my family is not in this house." My father's voice rose behind me. "If you walk out now, don't expect to come back." I paused for 1 second, but I didn't turn around. Then I continued walking. Outside the mansion gates, a car was waiting. Ethan stood beside it. Clean clothes, but the same tired eyes. When he saw me walking toward him, uncertainty crossed his face. I stopped in front of him. "Are you ready to go home?" Ethan looked surprised. "Home?" I smiled slightly. "Wherever we go together." For a moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded. We got into the car and drove away, leaving behind the mansion, the empire, and the man who thought power mattered more than family. But the truth was simple. The man my father called a beggar was the only man who ever truly loved me. Epilogue. 1 year later, Sophie runs through the backyard of our small house, her laughter filling the air. Ethan is chasing her, pretending he can't catch her. I sit on the porch, coffee in my hands, watching them. The empire is gone. My father's company was broken apart after the truth came out. Daniel finally got his story told. The business partner got his business back. The reporter wrote her article. And Richard Sterling? He sits alone in his empty mansion. No family, no friends, no empire. Just the silence he created. My mother calls every week now. She's in therapy. She's trying to become the woman she should have been 30 years ago. It's not easy, but she's trying. As for me, I don't miss the money. I thought I did. For a while, I wondered if I had made a mistake. If I should have fought harder to keep both my family and my father's empire. But then I watch Ethan and Sophie. I watch them laugh. I watch them be free. And I know I made the right choice. Because at the end of the day, money doesn't build empires. Love does. And the empire I'm building now? It doesn't need billion-dollar deals or marble floors. It needs a backyard, a porch, coffee in the morning, and the sound of my daughter laughing.